been working hard on your short stories. I was lucky enough that I got to edit a few, and I'm sure most of you are finished or close to being finished. And what we're going to talk about today is how you're going to be able to publish your books. But before we do publishing, we're going to talk about intellectual property. So, what is intellectual property? Anyone have any idea? Let's think about the word property. All right, what is property? Tracy?
Something that you own?
Something that you own. So talk among yourselves about things that each of you own. All right, take a few minutes.
I own my toys, my TV, my
All right, now everyone take a moment and each group tell me one thing that you own. All right, so decide among your group one thing that you own. And then we're going to go over. Now think about you own. Not necessarily your parents or grandparents, something you own. All right, are you ready? All right, so this group, what's one thing you own? A PS4. It'd be sad if that was lost or stolen, right? Well, or broken. What about this group? Well, a house is something you don't own your house. I think you missed that part. Something that you own personally. Books. That's a good one because I like books. All right, what about you guys? Electronics, and that can be the PS4s, that can be phones, that can be computers, that can be laptops. It's a big thing if it would be lost, stolen, or broken. What about you guys?
My mini dinosaur collection.
Your mini dinosaur collection. I bet you've been collecting that for a long time.
Since I was 5.
So that would be a shame if that was stolen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So property are things you own. So we talked about what you own. You guys own a lot of things. Even if you look on your personal space, you own your shoes, you own your pants, you own your sweatshirts. A lot of these things, if you would, a nice mechanical pencil, if you would lose it or if it was stolen, that would be wrong. So intellectual. What does intellectual mean? What does intellectual mean? I mean, it's okay just to guess. Intellectual is not something that everyone can own. All right, think of it this way. If you were an intellectual person, what does that mean? Jeremiah?
Different?
You could be different. Kaylin? I'm sorry, a little louder. You could be a private person, but that's not what intellectual means. Kayla? You would probably be special, but not necessarily because, you're intellectual. Tracy?
Like, what do you say? I forgot.
All right. Well, it has to do with this thing in here. Intellectual intelligence. How smart you are. But also what things your brain comes up with. All right? So if you think about it as what your brain comes up with. So intellectual property is the ideas and products of your brain. Ideas and products. Ideas and products. What does that mean? And products. Mary. You're in a situation and you think of something, added an idea. Kayla?
Well, it can be like something that you could use,
Okay. Let's see her. Ideas are what you think, products are what you make. So let's think about some examples of things that you think of and things that you make. Why why don't you guys talk in your groups and think about things people think of and things people make. Just take a few seconds. Things that you think of, an idea, what does that idea go into? What does it make?
You go to camp and you make like wooden things or something.
Talk to him.
Or like how we made our
What are you guys thinking of?
seriously
Be more specific. All right, let me give you guys a clue. We talked about property is things you own, right? So if this is intellectual property, and it means your ideas and products, it's your property, so you would own it. So what ideas and products could that mean then? Anyone have anything in the group that kind of matches that now? All right, I'll give you some examples. The gadget you invented, like this. Someone had to invent this, right? It just didn't automatically pop up one day. Someone had to have the idea, they had to create it, and it had to work. The song you wrote, think about all the songs you listen to on the radio. Someone created that, right? It started with an idea, they wrote it down, maybe they sold the song so someone else would sing it, or maybe they sing it themselves. The painting you painted, or drew, or created. Think of all the great artists out there. They had an idea, they did it, it's theirs, right? And what about that poem you wrote? And in this case, what did you guys just create? Your short stories. You had an idea, you wrote it down, you created it. Now, is that mine? Who owns it? You guys do. So all of these are your ideas, they're your creations, so therefore it's your intellectual property. So, can I take your property? Can I take your shoes or your toys or books? And that would be what? It would be stealing. All right, so what happens if I take your ideas? If I take your short stories? Well, right now it's not copyrighted because that goes through a certain process, but it is your intellectual property, and I would be stealing it, right? Okay, so ideas are the same as physical things you own. You can't steal it, you own it. So, what can you do, or what can I do with my intellectual property? If you make something that is your idea or work, whether it's an artwork, a song, a story, no one can use it, no one can change it without your permission. Okay, that's the law. And only I, if it's my story, can decide, oh, I'm gonna let Tracy copy it because he's using it for something. Or I might give it away. Or if it's a picture, I might hang it up. Or I might make changes to it. Now, what is copyright? It's the laws that protect, you're right, it is laws that protect the work, but also, do you ever see the little C with the circle around it, besides sometimes labels and emblems and different things? Oh, that's the copyright symbol. That means it has gone through the process and it is an official copyright. Like, no one can use it without their permission. But authors also have stories, poems, letters, artists, drawings, paintings, photos. And that's where this gets important. Musicians and composers have their music, their videos, their recording. Web designers have websites. So, and you can't use them without their permission. Now, getting permission is not always hard. If they're an author, artist, musician, or web designer, it might be. But there's a lot of things on the web, on the internet, that you can use, you can borrow with their permission, but you have to do something with it. So this is an example. You find this drawing on the internet. You think it really worked great for a math homework, okay? So you just copy it. You might make a few changes, but did you own this to begin with?
No.
No. You copied and pasted it into your work, but you don't own it. So what do you have to do? Put the what? What? You gotta talk louder. You have to ask for permission, but how do you do that? You don't know this person. Well, you can't use it without permission, so you do have to get permission. And if you have permission, we'll talk about how you get the permission. If you have the permission, you can use the picture or change the picture, but you need to, this is the important part, you need to tell who made it first. And this was drawn by Ms. Benford. So she made it. So does anyone know what that's called? When you write, put on either a drawing or something, who made it? Don't worry, we're gonna go over that. So what does this mean? If you want to use the words or pictures of someone else, you need to have their permission and you need to give them credit. Explain where you found the pictures or the words, and it's called, that word, citing your source, citing your source. So, because I borrowed Miss Benford's work, this is actually Miss Benford's slide, PowerPoint. And at the very beginning, you might have saw at the bottom that I gave Miss Benford, credit for it. She's the one who started this. I made some changes, but she did such a good job. It's like, I don't have to reinvent the wheel with that. But I need to let people know Miss Benford is the one who created this. And you have to cite your source. Now, if you're reading a book and you borrow some of the words, do you have to cite it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you're on the web and you're writing a biography and you found this website that gives you all the information and you just copy and paste the information, well, first of all, that has another word. Does anyone know what that word is? Stealing? Well, you're stealing it, but it's called plagiarism. But even if you rewrite what they wrote and put it in your paper, you need to cite it. Same with photographs, music, anything like that. You have to cite your source. You have to give them credit. Because otherwise, you're essentially going in their house and stealing their property. So when you use a book or website, you need to list the author, the title, and the book of the website. Now, example, there's a book called Tigers by Helen Frost. Now, if you would put this in a paper, there is a special way of doing this. This is called APA formatting. But you have to at least say, you got your information from Helen Frost and that book called Tigers. Maybe you found something about tigers online by Busch Gardens. So you would want to write that in your paper. And if it's a website, attach the URL. So everyone knows this is where I got it. Citing a source. The source is the person who originally came up with that idea. It's their property.